everyone! Today we're going to be testing out another new palette. I know there's been so many first impressions lately and we're not done, so we're just going to keep rolling. Today's palette is going to be the Radioactive palette by Melt. I ended up picking this up at Sephora. I will have a vlog up probably tomorrow, hopefully. That's going to be the plan anyway, but I showed you me getting this palette at Sephora. I'm really excited about this. I will say though, this is not an eyeshadow palette, it's a pressed pigment palette, it says on here. So I'm guessing none of these are going to be like eyeshadows, they're all pressed pigments, or at least, you know, a lot of them. Which does make sense since this is a neon palette. Now I just took it out of the packaging and this is so cool. Like, I'm not sure if this is going to pick up on the texture, but it's almost like it's got a bit of a rough texture, but still being kind of sleek and shiny. I don't really know how to explain it, but it's really, really cool and it feels nice in my hands. So let's open this baby together. I know Melt has had some pressing issues in the past, so I hope that none of the shades in here came broken. So let's see how this palette looks. That always happens. Oh, and it made it alive. That's so cute. Oh my god, I love how it has like the neon rim around every shadow. That is so cute. Oh my god, I'm so excited for this. Oh, this is such a pretty palette. I'm literally in the best mood ever right now. I just want to sit down and play with this, so that's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna go ahead and swatch this like I always do with my palettes, and then we're gonna get into trying some of these on my eyes. I don't know why I'm so excited about a rainbow palette, but I just am. I'm just really excited about this. So let's go ahead and do some swatches, and then we're gonna get into doing a look with this. Okay, so as for the swatches, I was a little bit like just confused in the beginning when I saw this palette. I saw the swatches of this palette. I was like, are all of these mattes or are there shimmers in it? But from swatching it, it appears that the only one that's actually like a shimmer is this kind of lilac-y purple shade, which I actually thought that the turquoise was going to be a shimmer as well, and I wasn't sure if maybe the green was a shimmer, but they all appear to be mattes. They just have a little bit of like shimmer particles in them, probably to make them easier to blend. So I'm actually excited about that because that means I need to pull in something else to use with this palette. So I'll probably pull in, you know, some shimmers from somewhere else because I'm not the biggest fan of doing all my eye looks. I've said that in the past many times. So I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to start priming my eyes with my Smashbox Lid Primer in Light. I know these are neons or like very bright shadows and they would probably perform better if I used a white base, but I don't like using a white base, so I'm just going to go ahead and use the primer that I always use here. So from my understanding, they discontinued the stack and made this palette instead, which honestly makes me so happy because I don't own any of their stacks. I've kind of wanted to in the past because they look really nice, but they also just seem so bulky and like impractical to use, but the concept is still like so cool. Do you know what I mean? Like it's interesting that they did something different, but it's just not that easy to use. So I'm really happy they came up with this palette. Now this palette is quite expensive. It does retail for $48. You can buy this on Sephora. You can also buy it on their site. So we're gonna go ahead and have a play with this. I'm not really sure what I want to do, but I do think I want to try to use, you know, a lot of these shades just to see how they perform. I am curious, however, if any of these are going to stain, because just looking at my fingers right now, it definitely appears that the kind of turquoisey shade and the teal shade are going to stain. So I want to just like wipe these off and see if there is any staining left on my hand here, because that's going to be a pretty good indicator of how your eye is going to look at the end of the day after all is said and done. So the only one I can really see here is the pink shade. I can also see a little bit of the teal shade down here, but usually my makeup wipes will take off most of the things that I put on my eyes. Sometimes I'll have some staining with some blues and pinks, but it's not usually that bad, so I don't think this palette is going to be terrible. That's the only reason why pressed pigments aren't said to be eye safe, is because they can cause staining. So don't worry about when it says that on a palette. I don't think a brand would actually sell you something that's like scary or dangerous to put on your eyes unless it's glitter, and I feel like glitter is common sense, so you shouldn't put glitters on your eyes, you know? So I think the shade that I want to start with is going to be the lime green, which is called Xenon. Is that how you say it? Xenon, X-E-N-O-N? I don't know. I feel like I've heard that word before, but what that is so powdery. I literally dipped my brush into it and you can see the fallout in the pan here. Like, that is quite crazy. Like, I barely dipped my brush into this at all. Like, I knew that this was going to be powdery just from swatching it, and because I have tried Melt's formula in the past, but I wasn't expecting that. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the first half or so of my crease, I think, and I'm going to just pack it on using stamping motions here. And that's actually a really beautiful shadow. I don't know why I said actually, like I wasn't expecting that. I mean, I do have pretty high expectations for this palette, not only because it's expensive, but also because it's Melt, and Melt does have a reputation for being really good at making eyeshadows. The only palette from them that I've tried is the Smoke Sessions palette, and I only tried that once because I actually bought it for my sister-in-law, and she said that I could use it to film it one time, so I did, and I really, really liked it. And I've also heard so many people say really good things about the neon stack that I did have. So I'm kind of hoping that these are going to perform the same way, just in, you know, a palette form. And I'm pretty sure that they probably have the same formula in this palette. Or I shouldn't say pretty sure, but I feel like since their stack was doing so well, it would only make sense to put the same formula into this palette, you know? And I'm wiping off my brush here, and I do think I want to take just a little bit of that yellow as well. I probably should have done this first, but I didn't know that I was going to do this. This one is called Neon, and also super powdery, like extremely powdery. This is like subculture kind of powdery, so if that bothers you, might not like this palette, but doesn't really bother me at all. So I'm just going to take this like right underneath my brow and just blend that into the neon green here. And I don't need this to be like super intense, I just want a little bit of a hint of yellow to blend into that green. I do feel like maybe this green is blending away a little bit now that I'm going in with the yellow on top of it, but I mean it's still looking okay, it's just not looking as bright as it was when I first put it down. And there's so much kick up in this. I don't know if you could see like all the eyeshadow flying through the air. So what I'm gonna do next is I think I'm gonna go into Arsenic, which is the kind of turquoisey shade right here. Again, super powdery. I have a feeling all of these shades, except for like that kind of shimmery purple shade, is going to be very powdery. I'm gonna put that in the outer part of my crease here and just meet that up with the two shadows that I just put down and just kind of blend these together. And I don't feel like this is sticking to my eye as well as it probably could. So I'm a little bit worried trying to go in with another shade to deepen this up with, but I mean, we're obviously going to try. I'm also going to kind of tuck that in here in the first part of my crease and just blend it into the green as well. Like, I feel like you might have to work with these as if they are neon shadows, and I'm not doing that right now because I'm trying to like blend everything together and stuff. I'm honestly not super impressed with this shadow in general. I feel like it's not as bright on the eye as it is in the pan. Let's just take a look at this. Yeah, I definitely feel like this is way more saturated in the palette than it is on my eye. I mean, it does look nice and smooth and pigmented, just not as pigmented as it does in the pan here. And you can see again, there's a lot of kick up in this. And I have to blow it away from the palette every time to make sure it doesn't mix into other shadows. So I am a little bit worried, like I said, about going in with something else to kind of you know, deepen up the outer corners and stuff with. I'm curious to see how the darker shades are going to layer on top of these, because I mean, with neon shadows in the past, I've not had very good luck trying to layer and build on anything. So I do feel like they might work though. I mean, we'll see, because the darker shades aren't really like neons, they're just dark mattes, so maybe it's not going to be a problem. We are about to find out. So I think I'm going to use the purple to deepen this up with, or maybe I'll go into Meltdown. Maybe that's what I'll do. No, I kind of want to do the purple. I'm going to take, what is this called? Hazmat? I don't know what that means, but I'm going to go into this purple right here, and I'm going to switch to a smaller brush here. And I'm first just going to pack this on the outer corner of my eye. And I'm going to try to blend it into that teal shade that I put down in my crease. And already I feel like this is not layering the best on top of that shadow, but maybe I'm going to be able to build it up here. It's definitely a little bit sheer, just like going on the eye, even on the spot where I don't have any shadow on already and I just have my tacky eyeshadow primer. It does seem a little bit sheer. Take this through my crease as well, just a little bit here, not all the way in. I do want most of that to just be the green, and it does seem like it layers okay with that teal, but I just feel like the pigmentation is not as popping on the eye as it is in the pan here. And I don't want any comments saying I should have used a white base, because I have shadows just like these that perform much better than this palette is currently doing. So I am judging this up against palettes that I have and love in my collection that I feel are, you know, better or in the same price range, which honestly I feel like these are a little bit overpriced for what I feel like I'm working with right now. But obviously this is just a first impression, but I still feel like, you know, the first impression matters, because if I don't get super excited about a palette the first time I use it, odds of me wanting to use it again are pretty slim. So it's not bad, it is building, but it's also kind of taken away a little bit of the shadow that I have in my crease now. I feel like the blue kind of disappeared, so I'm gonna go in with a little bit more of that arsenic shade and just sort of run that right above here, just to bring back the shadow a little bit. I'm also having a little bit of fallout with this, but that's probably because these shadows are extremely powdery, like I said. So I think I'm gonna leave it here. I mean, I feel like this looks pretty good still, you know? Like, it's definitely not terrible by any means. It's just that I kind of had a little bit higher expectations than this, but we're gonna keep on trucking here and see where we end up. So I think what I'm gonna do next is I want to put some of the warm tones on my lower lash line here. So I think I'm first gonna go into Radioactive, which is the pink. Actually, before I do that, I'm just gonna take a little bit more of that purple and just kind of gently wrap this down to my lower lash line so that the transition out in the outer corner is gonna be a little bit easier to do. And then I'm gonna go into the pink shadow and I'm gonna kind of run that underneath the purple that I put down, as well as just bring it further in towards the inner part of my lower lash line here. I don't know if I want this to be all the way in. I think I'm going to use a little bit of the orange just on the inner part here. And I think maybe I will do an all matte look, and I'll do a cut crease and kind of use a white base on my cut crease and see how these going to layer on top of a white base. Because I feel like that's maybe how a lot of people are going to be using this palette. That one I just put down way too much shadow on this side. Oops. And now we have to even it out on this side. I also feel like this color is a little bit sheer. I definitely would have gone in with an eyeshadow primer on my lower lash line if I had known that. But like I said, I am treating these shadows right now as if they are regular eyeshadows, not like they are neon pigments, and that's probably where I'm going wrong. But I also feel like you shouldn't have to work that hard with a pressed shadow as you would with a loose pressed neon pigment. Am I making any sense? I hope I am. Next up, I'm gonna go into Radon. I'm having a hard time with the words in this palette because I don't know what they mean. So I'm gonna take this orange right here. And I'm just gonna put that on the inner part of my lower lash line here. That's a beautiful orange. I feel like this is definitely the brightest that any of these shadows have been, just putting them down. Again, I feel like it's a little bit sheer. I mean, as soon as you put it down, it's looking quite nice, but as soon as you go in and you try to blend even the slightest, it doesn't stick to your eye as well as I was hoping it would. I mean, I do think this looks nice though. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna take my white P. Louise base. I have a little bit of this on the back of my hand here. I'm gonna do a half cut crease. I'm not going to talk through me doing this. I will just kind of fast forward so you can see what I'm doing, because I feel like half cut creases are very dependent on your own eye shape, and it's not really something that's easy to teach a lot of people. So I'm just gonna go ahead and basically put this on my lash line and then just follow where the transfer is. I'm just making sure that the edges here are looking nice and smooth, because I am gonna go in with a matte on top of another matte. So I need these to blend nicely together. Just gonna tap out all the creases that I have going on. And then I'm gonna dip into that dark purple again and just kind of make sure that the transition here is going to be smooth. I find it quite challenging to do all matte eye looks because you need to really be super precise when you're blending everything together, especially when you're working with shadows like this. So I think what I'll do next is I'm gonna go into the, what do I really want to do? Do I want to go with a pink? I'm thinking that's what I want to do. So I think I'm gonna go in with Radioactive here, and I might even go in with a little bit of the orange as well. I haven't really decided. Maybe I'll do the yellow. I don't know. Let's start off with taking the pink shade, and I'm gonna be putting that in the middle of my lid here and trying to blend that into the purple. And I'm really packing this on. I'm trying to not do any kind of blending until I absolutely have to. I'm thinking I just want to go with the purple shade, like the light purple, like the lilac here on the rest of my lid. I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm still not really sure if this is a shimmer, so I'm first gonna try it just dry and see what happens, because it does kind of pick up like a matte. So maybe this is a bit of a matte with a little bit of glitter in it. That's kind of what it looks like it is. I mean, it's laying down as if it is a matte with glitter in it, so I'm not mad at that at all. I actually think that's quite a beautiful shadow. And it's definitely not blending into that pink as well as I was hoping. I might have to go in with a little bit more of that pink just on top of this. Actually, the more I'm layering this, the better it is looking. So maybe this is a shimmer. I'm really not sure. I'm very confused by this shade, but it is going onto my eyelid very nicely, whatever this shade actually is. Like, I feel like all of these could be treated as mattes in this palette. So I do feel like I need a little something in my inner corner just to kind of make everything come together. So I'm going to take one of the highlighters in the Naked Cosmetics highlighting palette. I've depotted these, so this is just like a kind of light green duochrome. And I'm just going to pop that right in here and kind of mix that together with both of the shadows that are meeting it here. Just bringing it up onto my lid a bit as well, just to bring in a little bit of just definition between all of these shadows. So I think this is where I'm going to leave it. I'm going to finish up my eyes. I'll pop something in my waterline. I'm thinking I want to do possibly a green just for fun because I can. And then I'll do some liner and mascara, and I'll put on a lipstick, and I'll come back and I'll tell you my thoughts on this palette, and maybe I'll try to find some other options that, you know, are not as expensive that you would get the same result with or something like that. I don't know. I'll be right back. So the final look is done. I did go for green in my waterline. This is the L.A Girl liner in the shade Gotcha. And on my lips, I'm using the Colourpop Lippie Stix in the shade Little Things. This is one of their cream ones. I really like this formula. I think it's so good. So as for this palette, like, do I think it's bad? I don't think it's bad. I just think that it's very overpriced for the quality of shadows that you are getting. I feel like you could get a lot cheaper shades that are going to do the exact same thing. I don't think that there's anything special about these shadows. They are quite hard to work with. They are quite powdery. The packaging is absolutely beautiful, and I really do like this. Let me just show you a couple of things that I feel like could be a better option to pick up. Now, obviously, they're not going to be complete dupes, but a lot of the shades in all of these palettes are going to be similar shades that are in the Melt palette. So the first palette that I want to just show is the Block Party palette by Suva Beauty. Here's what it looks like. So you can tell it has a lot of the same kind of tones in here. It has the same beautiful teal, it has a yellow, it has a bright pink, it also has a kind of dark blue here, which you don't have really in the Melt palette. It's got a kind of shimmery purple down here, as well as some other shimmers, but again, I just want to show you like some options that might be similar. So I also have 3 Juvia's Place palettes here that you could probably get all of these 3 palettes on sale for the same amount of money as what the Melt palette costs. So the first 2 are going to be the Zulu palette and the Warrior 3 palette. Here's what they look like side by side if you have not already seen this. And as you can see, they're basically a rainbow palette. I mean, these 2 together are going to be able to do basically what I have on my eyes right now. There's not many shades in here that you wouldn't be able to find in these palettes except for like the lime green matte. And that's basically it. And I also do have a lime green matte from Juvia's Place, which is in the Try palette. This palette is fantastic. I absolutely love this palette. And there's 2 kind of green shades in here. You have, well, you have this very light green up here, as well as this other green. And if you wanted to get like a shade in between, you could easily just mix them. And I feel like I said, if you want to get these palettes, you can get these on sale. Like Juvia's Place has 40% off sales all the time. And so that will bring the price down to probably like $12 per palette for these, maybe like $13. So it's going to be cheaper to buy 3 Juvia's Place palettes than to buy the Melt palette. Now, if you really want the Melt palette, I say go ahead and get it if you really want to, like, you know, if you're like a big supporter of Melt and you really like their products and you think you will like this palette, you will probably like this palette. But if you go into this palette having super high expectations and expecting these to be like the best rainbow shades that you have in your collection, I think you'll be a little bit disappointed. I don't think this is fantastic at all. I don't think it's worth the money. It's not a terrible palette, it's just overpriced for what it is. So that's going to be my review on this palette. Let me know if you got this palette. Let me know what you think. Do you think I was too harsh on it? I don't know. That's just kind of how I felt when I was working with it, and that's, you know, how I want to review my palettes. Obviously everyone's going to have different opinions, and maybe this palette works out great for you, and that's awesome. But for me, I was a little bit disappointed, and that's just how it goes sometimes. So thank you so much for watching this video. As always, if you want to see some other similar content, you can click on one of these two videos. And if you're new to my channel, I would love it if you would consider subscribing, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.